Don and Susan, we don't normally meet like this, but this is where we are. So let's start right off the bat and talk about the response from our elected leaders. And let's start on the local end. Susan, who has impressed you most in the response to COVID-19?
Well, certainly, both of our mayors have jumped right into this, and they've given a lot of responsibility, it appears, to Dr. Martha Buchanan at the Public Health Department, which is where it should belong. But I've been very impressed that Mayor Kincannon and Mayor Jacobs have both been every day giving us updates about what's happening in Knox County, and Dr. Buchanan has been terrific as well. So I feel like, although I'm sitting at home, I feel fairly secure in knowing what's happening in Knox County and in the city.
Don, your take.
I concur pretty much with what Susan said. I'm really impressed with Mayor Kincannon, and I think back to a couple of days ago when Mayor Jacobs came out and sort of put a little bit softer shutdown closing on things, and within hours, Mayor Kincannon, the city mayor, stepped up and said, no, we needed a pretty hard close on everything. But I think all the agencies have done well. Martha Buchanan, again, as Susan mentioned, has just been really reassuring and thorough. And on a local level, unlike some things we'll talk about in a moment, I suspect, we've done a really good job in Knoxville, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. But I feel confident in everything that's going on right now locally.
Don, let's stay with you and talk about the state level and move to Governor Bill Lee. He's taken some heat for not calling for a statewide stay-at-home order, though he says more than half the state is already under that because individual counties like Knox, Davidson, and Shelby have already done that.
Well, as Dr. Fauci on the national level has said, this disease, this virus, has no borders. And so I've been very disappointed in what Governor Lee has done in terms of just really saying, it's almost sending the message, it's not that bad, take some precautions, but not take all the precautions that we need. When you've got an adjacent governor, and Governor Behar in Kentucky, telling his citizens not to come to Tennessee because this is not doing enough to protect itself, that should get your attention. And I think he's right. We need to do a little more on the state level, because if another adjacent county to Davidson, or say Williamson or Rutherford or something, it's going to be a problem, and this disease is going to spread more. It's not going to surprise me if Governor Lee eventually sort of changes and locks down the state, so to speak. But it's really the only solution we have right now.
Susan, your take.
Well, I know there's been some criticism of the governor for not issuing a shelter-in-place order, but he's also thinking about the economy, and I appreciate that. We all know, all of us have businesses that are suffering, and I'm very, very aware of all the hourly workers and restaurants, and we all know friends that are really being hurt by this. And so I think as governor of the whole state, he does have some responsibility to think about the economy and getting back to business as normal. Will we eventually have to do a shelter in place? Maybe. We certainly haven't, they keep talking about the peak and the curve and words that we've all started using now. We certainly have not hit that in Tennessee yet. And it is rising exponentially, and we are beginning to see some deaths from this virus. But I'm guessing, I haven't talked to Governor Lee, but I'm just guessing he also is trying to look at keeping people employed, and essential businesses particularly that are trying to stay open. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a break, and I'll bet you if time goes on and it gets a lot worse, we'll see a complete shutdown.
And see, the problem with that is when you couple we're going to leave some of the smaller counties open, we're going to let them make decisions, with the shutdown in rural health care in this state that we've undergone for the last 5 years, we are going to be facing as a state, if this gets as bad as they've suggested, a much worse situation that we're not equipped to handle. And that's why I think Governor Lee is wrong, and he should have called for a statewide stay-at-home, except for essential services. And, I've got lawyers right now that have to go to court, to deal with people in jails, and that's a whole nother pandemic crisis that we're going to see as a country. But we have to do certain things to ensure constitutional rights. But even something like my office that's on the essential services list, we're running half staff and distancing and limiting any contact with outside. And so he can make an order, or he can impose a stay-at-home order that's going to serve us much better in 2 or 3 weeks instead of being absolute crisis in 4 to 6.
Susan, I'll let you respond to that, but we've got to take a quick break. We're going to be back on Inside Tennessee with more from both Don and Susan. We'll get her take on Governor Lee as well as President Trump. We'll also talk about what it's like to run a campaign in the middle of a COVID-19 crisis right after this.